Hello VRay users, Alex here, VRay Guide, and tonight we're gonna continue diving into VRay Next and explore the new functions and features. Tonight I'm gonna cover VRay physical camera. Last time I showed you the physical camera of 3ds Max, and this time I'm gonna show you the new function that we have for VRay physical camera in order to get auto exposure and auto white balance. Those are features I'm really excited about, actually. It will save a lot of time. So as you see here, I have a regular physical camera in my scene, which is hidden here. That's the camera, so I'm going to delete it, and I'm going to create a new camera by clicking on our quick tool panel here, like that. I'm going to click C, go into my camera, and with the middle mouse scroll up in order to get a nicer angle. So if we press F3, we can go into the standard viewport mode. Now I'm going to click also save frames because I want to see what I'm actually seeing and rendering. And I'm going to start my render here. So that's one of those scenes that we get to use and test our cameras from the class. We can see that it's working pretty fast, the interactive rendering. I'm going to stop this, and somehow the camera works really good. I didn't adjust it. If I'm selecting the camera here, we can see all the parameters that comes along with, and the default of ISO 100, f number 8 and the shutter speed 200 gave me a pretty good result here. So I'm gonna click on the interactive render here and show you some features. So again, we can go from movie camera. You can see that the movie camera is getting a little bit more overexposed with the same settings here. And the video camera, this is we're probably going to use for the animation, but if we render stills, we can use this one, still cam. Again, we can have the camera targeted. We can have a target that we can control. If we click on camera, select camera, and then H, we'll be able to get to our camera and target here. So if I select target, I can start moving around. However, if I disconnect it, I won't be able to have that. So again, from the top view, we can connect and disconnect our target. Click C, go back to the camera. We have a focus distance, so we can actually play with the focus distance. And that's going to be away from our target. Here we can select how we want to see the cone. Want to always see it, never see it. If we want to see the horizon line, we can also click on and off. We can see that right here. It will help us to level up the camera. Now we come into the sensors and the lenses here. You can click field of view, which can be exaggerated right here. Same thing pretty much happening with the film gate and a focal length. So I'm not going to change my film gate, I'm only going to use the focal length. So 35, I guess is the standard here. And you can see that my camera is getting a little bit overexposed. Now we can change our exposure in order to fix it. So if we go higher our shutter speed, you can see we can kind of try and match, kind of eyeball it. Now, if you're new to VRay and you don't really know how to fix your exposure, House Group came out with a really cool setup here, which I'm about to show you. We go to camera, you can click auto exposure, and you can see the exposure getting fixed automatically. We can also click auto white balance and get our white balance fixed as well. Now let's do this thing. This looks good. I'm going to disconnect that, and again we're going back to what the camera setup was. But in order to keep this, I'm going to activate it back again, and now I need to stop the render, and now I'm getting this option transfer to camera. So I can take those settings from the auto exposure and the auto white balance and transfer them to the camera. Now look what's going to happen right here in our aperture parameters. See, so my f number didn't change and my shutter speed didn't change, however my film speed ISO changed. So if I'm disconnecting those and going back, you can see that my exposure is in perfect balance with our environment. Right, so this is really cool trick right here that I'm excited to deliver to you guys. Now let's do another thing. Let's bring some different lighting. I'm gonna go to my environment. I'm going to remove the sky, and I'm also going to go to top view, and I'm going to delete my sun. I don't really need that. And remove the sky portal. Now let's bring VRay dome light, and let's put in that VRay dome light some environment and see how this works. So inside VRay dome light, we can click here on a texture map. Let's load VRay, HDRI, double click. So we got here evening, casted. I'm gonna get that evening image. I'm gonna click open, and now we've got that image there. Now we need to do a few tweaks. I'm gonna drag and drop it instanced. Oh, it's already spherical, which is good. And I like to use inverse gamma 0.7 in order to get a little bit sharper results and more contrast. So I'm gonna click C, go back to my camera, and let's click render again. See how this goes. So it's way off and very dark. Now let's use our new feature. So I'm going to stop this. I'm gonna go to camera, click auto exposure. Let's leave the auto white balance off for now and just get the exposure. Alright, so you can see this thing working pretty good. A lot of yellow color here, and let's rotate this a little bit so you know we can rotate this image right here. Let's rotate the other way. Get something nice like this when we're getting yellow color and some bluish color bouncing here. Alright, now let's go back to our auto white balance. Let me select my camera, select camera, and check this out here. As you can see, my white balance is in temperatures 65-38, and that was according to my day setup that was before with the VRay sun. Now let's click auto white balance and see what happens. Voila. as we can see, the lighting and the colors are getting way more natural look. We're getting nice bluish tones. At the window we have yellowish and really nice yellowish orange sun reflections on the wall and in the glass, which works pretty cool. Alright, and that can work with basically any time you're bringing new HDRI into your scene, or changing a lighting or changing an angle. You don't have to worry about setting up the camera or messing up with those aperture parameters, as long as you find your f number and your shutter speed. So the f number is for depth of field. Let's just activate our depth of field. And you can see that it's getting a little bit blurry here, but not too much. We don't really see a depth of field. So with those two guys active, let's change our depth of field to something 1.8 in order to focus on our mugs here. Let's just make sure that the target is pointing to our coffee cups. Alright, so right here we gotta focus on the table. Let's go back to our camera, bring back the render, and we already can see that the background is getting out of focus, very blurry, thanks to our aperture that we changed, f number that we changed from 8 to 1.8. Okay, again, in order to get those settings, let's just close this and bring our render panel. I need to stop my render and click transfer to camera, and you can see our ISO changed again without changing our f number and without changing our shutter speed. Now if we want to have cool motion blur, we can play with our shutter speed and test it out, see how blurry we want the object to be, and when we're done, just click transfer to camera and you will get those settings ready to go. After that, when you're done, just disconnect auto exposure and auto white balance and you will have those settings ready to go for any occasion that you guys might want to use it for. Okay, and the white balance, you can see it changed dramatically. It's very yellowish. So let's go and explore a few more options that we have here. I'm gonna click on interactive. Let me select my target and let's pull it a little bit up. I want to look up. Okay, we can see that the columns and everything becomes very exaggerated, so we can fix the tilt. Select our camera, we can scroll down and we can click this automatic vertical tilt. So you can see it fixes those lines automatically. Even though we're looking up, our line's looking straight. If we disconnect that, we can control that also manually. I always like to do a little bit of a tilt, so it will not really straight. That way it gets this nice organic look to it. We can also shift up and down the camera without actually shifting the camera or tilting the camera. I think this is really cool option. I want to show the chairs and everything, but I like the location, the position of my camera. I can use the shift option. You can also shift it horizontally if you like. Shift it to the side. And we can do it also vertically, right here. More stuff we have, something that's called bokeh effect. If you guys not familiar with that, bokeh effect, that needs to be calculated with our depth of field. If we go to Google and we type in bokeh effect, you can see different examples of bokeh effect, and we get those corners here. Those are the blades that VRay have here. So we can have 5 blades, 5 corners. We can increase it to have an hexagon or octagon. So this stuff is cool. Distortion, we have cubic, lens, flare, we have texture. We can use texture in order to do some camera distortion, lens distortion, but just for the sake of this idea, let me show you how this stuff works. Many cameras do get this distortion at the lenses. Guess vertical tilt, guess vertical shift. We have those automatic options here. So I'm fixing automatically my camera position. Also, let's zero this up, and I'm gonna zero up my shift. And you can see how this affects our camera. Now we can go also into negative, and in that case the bending will be outwards for our camera. So different lenses work in different variations here. So we can bend inward, we can bend outward in order to get a little bit more fisheye look. And also we have the clipping. If we, for instance, standing outside, but we want to get rid of that column, we can activate the clipping and just start reducing the near clipping. So we're actually clipping through and taking out that column so we can see inside our interior. Now just make sure you expand your far clipping so you will not cut your background, and you will see all the way through into the horizon. Okay, so that's a cool option. And in distortion we can use also texture or lens file in order to get this nice realistic camera lens distortion. We can also use bitmap aperture to get the nice bokeh effect, and we can stylize it with center bias, anisotropy, and optical vinaigrette. Alright, so those are the functionality and the options of VRay physical camera. Share it if you like it. This is Alex, your VRay guide. See you in the next video. Ciao.